So good day to all of you and for my co-researchers. So today we're going to present our research forum about COVID-19, about the latest updates and the actions that are done by the government. So this COVID-19 has brought us a lot of problems and has let us stay on in our homes. And as you probably already know, this COVID-19 is as much of a threat for our country and for the global um, transmission of this disease. So next, our goal in presenting this COVID-19 research forum is to provide reliable, valid, and verified and trusted informations to the learners of RICS and also for the remnants to about this global issue in COVID-19. So we also aim to raise awareness and for the people to make part on this fight against this virus. So next, as I said earlier, that there are already news about this COVID-19 wherein it has become a pandemic and where everyone just became so they just panic and they are already staying in their homes, and this coronavirus causing this COVID-19 is really a threat for everyone. So for this research forum, next, we're going to talk about a lot about COVID-19. So as you can see in the graph, as of November 1, 2020, the Philippines reached more than 350,000 cases of COVID-19. So it is really alarming for us because we should um, we should have end this back then in May, but then it has been 10 months from now, almost 10 months from now, since the COVID-19 has started. So next. So in this research forum, we are going to discuss three parts, and each of one will be discussed by my co-researchers. So, Mr. Wesley.
So hello everyone. Hello remnants. So as I start this part one, let's answer this question. Why is COVID-19 a threat? So next. So first, let's tackle a brief history or a timeline of how COVID-19 spread rapidly. So January 7, it's the start of New Year. The WHO officials announced that they have identified a new virus named SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes the COVID-19, which is the disease. So a few days after that, January 11, China announces the first death linked to COVID-19. So based on my research, um, they don't name that patient to have his or her own privacy. Um, a month after that, March 11, WHO declares that COVID-19 is COVID-19 is already a pandemic with more than 100 cases and 4,000 deaths in 114 countries. So next. So let's go back to the question. Why COVID-19 is a threat? So for real, to be honest, it's not just there's a missing word with that. It's a real threat for all of us because COVID-19 is not a joke. We must take it very seriously. We must not overreact, but we must do our part. So the people who are at risk of COVID-19 is from age 30 to 69. So um, the person who reach already 60 years old are the people who are already senior citizens. So we know that as we get older, our immunity system became weaker as we get older. So there's a high chance or um, a big possibility that you will be the first one to catch this virus, especially if you have health conditions like lung or heart disease, diabetes, or condition that affect your immune system. So next. So yeah, just like what I said, 60 years and above who have health condition are the people who are at risk of catching this virus. Next. So yeah, do our part to protect those who are at most risk. So if you're not at risk, of course you need to do your part, which is do and um, do what is right and the rules and regulation that your government implemented to your country in order for you to to stop the spreading of this virus. So for now, may I call on Menard to share to us how it is being transmitted from person to person.
So in this part, we will talk about how this virus is transmitted. According to World Health Organization, um, COVID-19 spreads by droplets released when an infected individual coughs or sneezes and lands on the mouth or nose of people nearby. It can also spread when a healthy person experiences physical contact or close contact with someone sick, like hugging or shaking hands. Um, those droplets can also land on objects, creating fomites, which are basically like contaminated surfaces. Um, the droplets will stay on those surfaces for hours or even days. COVID-19 is a communicable disease, which means that it is very contagious. COVID-19 is transmitted through viral shedding and no evidences from fecal shedding. Airborne transmission has also not been reported and is not believed to be a major driver of transmission. Majority of cases were reported to be people between the age of 30 to 69 years. World the World Health Organization also says that the data on individuals aged 18 years old under suggests that there is a relatively low attack rate in this age group. So let me call on my co-reporter Wesley Manuel again to report the symptoms that the COVID-19 may have.
So actually, based on my research, within 2 to 14 days, your immune system may respond with these symptoms, including fever, cough, shortness of breath, chills, muscle pain, headache, sore throat, and so on. So the virus moves down to your respiratory tract. That's the airway that includes our nose, our throat, our lungs, and our mouth. So COVID-19 is more likely to go deeper than viruses like the common cold. So there are more possible symptoms that each person may have. So one of these um, are pink eye, rashes, liver problems or damage, heart problems, kidney damage, and dangerous blood clots. So that ends the part one of our research. May I call on now Jean Kathleen to share us about how we can stop this how we can stop this virus.
Thank you for that. Again, I am Ms. Chinkatin Vilala and I am going to explain to you the immunization through vaccine. Next. Vaccines are substances that helps protect against certain diseases. It has dead or weakened version of the microbe. It will help the immune system recognize and destroy the living microbe during a future infection. Next. However, like all viruses, SARS-CoV-2 will also most likely to mutate. So is that a problem for the first set of vaccine? So on this part, you can see a picture of G614 or the mutation of the virus. So a typical SARS-CoV-2 virus accumulates only a two single-letter mutations per month in its genome, a rate of change about half that of influenza and one quarter of HIV. So basically the mutation just reminds us to be more careful and to follow and to really follow the rules and regulations of our government. Next. Next slide, please. Of making the vaccine. So first we have here the exploratory stage. On this stage, this includes the basic laboratory research and often lasts for 2 to 4 years. Next, here we have a preclinical phase. So in this part, this is a study that uses tissue culture or cell culture systems and animal testing to assess the safety of the candidate vaccine. So here we have a mice and monkeys that are usually used for or to check the safety of the candidate vaccine. Next, go. Here we have the IND applications. This part, this focuses more on the approval of FDA for the vaccine. So the FDA has to approve the candidate vaccine for 30 days before moving forward to the three phases. So the three phases are the human trials. So again, I've mentioned it's divided into three. So you have the phase one. So the phase one involves 20 to 80 people. So this one is a small scale. The next is the phase two or the medium scale that involves 100 plus of people. And the next is the phase three or that involves thousands of people. So on this one, what are the differences of these? So the phase one, the goal of phase one is to assess the safety of the candidate vaccine and to determine the type of and the extent of immune response that the vaccine provokes. Next is the phase two. Is this one is the study of candidate vaccine safety or the immunogenicity, immunogenicity, proposed doses, schedule of immunizations, and method of delivery. Next is the thousand of people or the phase three. So this one is, as mentioned, the thousand of people. So this one is a more diverse one. So this involves the um more specific way of the study, more specific way of study because this one involves the effectiveness of the vaccine to the certain group of people. Next, go. Next slide. Next. So here, the following, the four, focused more on the safety of, or the study of the safety of the vaccine. So we have the approval and licensure. So this part, this focused more on the approval, as it's mentioned, approval and or the checking of the FDA to the factory that will manufacture the vaccine. So the following are just more on the safety, the precautions, or the studies for the safety, for the more safety, or this one is usually a optional part, especially the phase four. So that's all for this part. So may I call on Mr. Nathan Kabungkal to explain the immunization through antibodies.
So hi guys, I will discuss about immunization through antibody. So first, what is antibodies? Antibodies are proteins that help fight off infections and can provide protection against getting the disease. For examples, measles. Antibodies will protect you from getting measles if you are exposed to it again, but they won't protect you from getting mumps if you are exposed to mumps. So next. So how will these antibodies stop the infection? So there are two ways how antibodies will work. So the first one is it will bind to the antigens of the pathogens to stop its replication inside the body. And then the second one is it will bind to the pathogen and will serve as mark for the white blood cells to destroy. Next. So yeah, next. So, according to Dr. Francis Collins, the early data brought the hope that acquired immunity was possible, but some subsequent studies have suggested that immune protection might be short-lived. So, may I call on Mr. Vela to discuss the next slide.
Hello everyone, I'm Dylan Vela and I will discuss about the immediate response of the government to this global pandemic. If you enforce a quarantine utterly stringently, you can stop a virus escaping from an area. A really good way of slowing down transmission is to lock it in an area. A quote by Simon Clark from CNN, aired March 11, 2020. Next. Another way of containing the COVID-19 situation would be through the immediate response of the government and the cooperation of the organizations and population within the country. IATF, or the Interagency Task Force on Emerging Infectious Diseases, is a task force organized by the executive of the Philippine government to respond to affairs concerning emerging infectious diseases in the Philippines. The following responses were executed by our government with the support of IATF and of the WHO. First is the surveillance. Surveillance plays a vital role in the detection of COVID-19 cases. This allows us to understand the dynamics of the disease, trends, and infection hotspots. Next would be contact tracing. It is a system of detection and isolation. This system identifies who had a close contact with a reported COVID-19 patient. Next, infection prevention and control. This aims to protect those who are in the front lines, which includes the health workers, surveillance officers, and logistic providers. Next, laboratory and therapeutic access. This aids in the early isolation and treatment of COVID-19 patients. For the first 100 days of COVID-19 in the Philippines, 23 real-time reverse polymerase chain reaction laboratories are conducting diagnostic testings nationwide. Next. Next, there. Clinical care. With this in mind, the WHO conducted webinars on clinical management so that health workers would be armed with proper knowledge in order to treat the positive patients with a better clinical perspective. Next. Non-pharmaceutical interventions and mental health. This refers to the public health measures that does not include medicine and vaccines. This intervention involves personal protective measures, physical distancing, travel measures, and environmental measures. During the pandemic, people are most likely to feel fear and anxiety. The provision of mental health and psychological support is important during these days. Next. Risk communication and community management. Proper communication and engagement with communities is essential for the people to understand the current situation. Next. Logistic support. Provision and delivery of the PPEs, which includes real-time PPE supply count as well as cost charts, are included in this section. The logistic workers are also subnational operation support and responding to outbreaks. Scoping missions are done in the other regions within the country in order to provide technical support. And with the clustered confirmed cases in closed settings like prisons and hospitals, the WHO and DOH and ICRC works with the prison authorities and hospital staffs. Next. And finally, moving forward. Moving forward with the COVID-19 response would not be easy, but it is very much viable since more things are needed to be done to break the chain of COVID-19. A good management and total cooperation from all regions is necessary with utmost consistency. For the next section, may I call on Mr. Nathan Kabungkal?
So, hi again. I will discuss about herd immunity. So, what is herd immunity? Herd immunity is when a large part of the population is immune to a specific disease. So recently, many countries planning to develop herd immunity as their solution to this pandemic. So based on WHO, or Health Organization attempts to reach herd immunity through exposing people to a virus are scientifically problematic and unethical. Next. So, in this where part 2 of our research forum ends.
So to conclude our research, we are going to give you tips on how we can apply this knowledge to our everyday safety. So there are three for our friends or for the people with us. And for the next one is for the community and the environment. So for the first one, for ourselves, of course, if there are COVID-19 cases in your community, of course, you need to take some precautions for yourself, such as physical distancing, wearing a mask, and keeping your house with ventilation. And of course, we should also clean our hands to reduce the infection risk. And also, if we are coughing, we should also use our elbow instead of our hands so that it will not be spread to whatever we are holding. So we should always do it every day for, for um, more precautions. Next is for each other. So we should always maintain at least 1 meter or 6 feet distance between the people we are with. So we should always wear a mask as well. And for the DOH recommendation, we should also wear face shield together with the face mask. So to demonstrate the proper use of face mask, we should cover the mouth and the nose as well. So for the do's, it should be something like this. So for the surgical mask, there is a wire in here, so you need to press it for the nose to be covered. And for the don'ts, once that you have used your surgical mask, it is only used for 4 hours as recommended by WHO, and you should not recycle this or use it for another time or another day. So this is only a single use surgical mask, but if you want a more reusable one, you can use cloth mask. So I think that will be more environmental in a way because you can reuse it. So next. And yeah, for the environment and community, of course, we also need to care for our environment and for the community around us. So we should avoid spaces that have three C's, which are closed, so no ventilation at all, without windows or such. Spaces that are crowded with many people, so infection of the disease, and the spaces that involves close contact. So basically, we should practice social distancing. Also, it is better to meet people outside instead of making them go in our houses, and avoid indoor or crowded settings, as I said. So if it maintain, we should just maintain the ventilation or maybe open a window and wear masks inside the house while you're talking and such. So that concludes the research forum that we have done. And yeah, to give you the best advice, we should always remember these two characters from a movie. So be like Darth Vader that always wear masks, and he's socially and even emotionally distant. And just like what BBO said, he recommends washing hands. So that's all for this forum about COVID-19.